What if I told you the NFL's most desperate owner is about to force a rookie into the spotlight, and it might tear his team apart? Colin Cowherd just dropped a wild prediction, and it's all about Shedeur Sanders.
My argument is this owner, Jimmy Haslam, drafted Johnny Manziel and Baker Mayfield and signed Deshaun Watson to an egregiously bad contract. He's desperate for a star at quarterback. He wants a star at quarterback. Well, Kenny Pickett's got no juice. Dylan Gabriel's 5'8". Joe Flacco's old. Shedeur is the only potential star. And if you look at the first 5 weeks, it's 5 top 10 offenses, then Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh. And it's a lot of dynamic offenses and dynamic quarterbacks, Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson. And again, Tua and Mike McDaniel. There's a lot of powerful offenses. If they're dull in the first 6 weeks, because they don't have a very good roster, they're probably a 4 to 6 win team. My take is Jimmy Haslam's going to make a call and say, I want Shedeur Sanders.
What if I told you that one of the most desperate owners in the NFL is about to make a move that could either save his franchise or destroy it completely? Colin Cowherd just dropped a bombshell prediction that has the entire football world talking. And it's not what you think. While everyone's focused on who's going to start Week 1 in Cleveland, there's a much bigger story brewing behind the scenes. Jimmy Haslam, the same owner who gave us Johnny Manziel, Baker Mayfield, and that catastrophic Deshaun Watson contract, is reportedly ready to pull the trigger on his next big gamble. And this time, it involves the most polarizing young quarterback in football, Shedeur Sanders. Look, I know what you're thinking. Another Browns quarterback controversy? Haven't we been here before? But this is different. This isn't just about football. This is about desperation, star power, and an owner who's proven he'll do whatever it takes to get his guy. And according to Colin Cowherd, that guy is Shedeur Sanders. Let me paint you a picture of what's really happening in Cleveland right now. You've got mandatory minicamp starting, and while everyone's talking about Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and that undersized Dylan Gabriel, there's a shadow looming over the entire organization. Jimmy Haslam isn't just any owner. He's a man who's made some of the most questionable quarterback decisions in modern NFL history. But here's the twist that nobody's talking about. What if this time, he might actually be right? Cowherd laid it out perfectly when he said Jimmy Haslam is desperate for a star at quarterback. Think about that for a second. This is an owner who's been chasing that lightning in a bottle for years. Johnny Manziel? Disaster. Baker Mayfield? Started strong. Ended ugly. Deshaun Watson? Don't even get me started on that contract. But here's where it gets interesting. Cowherd specifically pointed out that Shedeur is the only potential star on that roster. Now, before you start rolling your eyes, let's break down what Cowherd was really saying. He wasn't just throwing out hot takes for clicks. He was making a calculated prediction based on one simple fact. Jimmy Haslam doesn't care about conventional wisdom. He cares about star power, marketability, and putting butts in seats. And when you look at the Browns' current quarterback room, who do you think fits that description? Kenny Pickett. Cowherd said it best. Got no juice. The man's been in the league and hasn't exactly set the world on fire. Joe Flacco. He's old, and while he had that magical run last season, let's be real, he's not the future. Dylan Gabriel? At 5 feet 8 inches, he's fighting an uphill battle from day one. And honestly, most GMs around the league were shocked he went in the 3rd round. Some thought he was completely undraftable because of his size. But Shedeur Sanders? That's a different story. Entirely. This kid has the name recognition, the confidence, and most importantly, the skill set that could actually work in today's NFL. And here's what's really crazy. Cowherd is predicting that by week 8, Shedeur will be starting for the Browns. Not because he's necessarily the best player, but because Jimmy Haslam is going to make that call. Think about the timeline here. The Browns are facing a brutal first 5 weeks. 5 top 10 offenses according to Cowherd. We're talking about Aaron Rodgers, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Tua, and Mike McDaniel's explosive Miami offense. These aren't cupcake games. If Cleveland stumbles out of the gate with Joe Flacco or Kenny Pickett, the pressure is going to be enormous.
I think Shedeur, the star power will matter. In 90% of markets, it doesn't. Cleveland at quarterback, it does. So my guess is there's a lot of dull, small, old. Shedeur by week 8 is starting. Do you think I'm out of my mind?
Well, you're on board. I know you've been making, tongue in cheek. Flacco's going to start week 1, right?
Yes.
Are you on board there? Okay.
Yes.
if it gets to a point, the team's not going to be very good. The defense can only carry you so long in the NFL. It's an offensive league now with the rules. If they force him to start Shedeur Sanders and the coach doesn't want to play him, I do think Kevin Stefanski by the end of the year will just quit. It'll be one of those situations where Stefanski and Barry, who are very highly thought of, and I was actually in the car today, I was listening to your show when you gave me a little shout out talking about how it was clear during the draft, right? They overdrafted Gabriel.
And that's when things get really interesting. Cowherd made a point that I think is absolutely crucial. In 90% of markets, it doesn't matter. Cleveland at quarterback, it does. Cleveland fans have been through quarterback hell for decades. They're not going to sit quietly while another season slips away with uninspiring play at the most important position. But here's where this story takes a dramatic turn. While everyone's focused on whether Shedeur can actually play at the NFL level, there's a much bigger battle brewing behind the scenes. We're talking about a potential power struggle between an owner who wants his star and a coaching staff that might not be on board. Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Barry are highly respected around the league. These aren't pushover coaches who are going to roll over for ownership demands. In fact, Cowherd's co-host made a chilling prediction that if they're forced to start Shedeur against their will, Kevin Stefanski by the end of the year will just quit. Think about that. We could be looking at a scenario where one of the most promising young coaches in the NFL walks away because of front office interference. This isn't just speculation either. Look at what happened during the draft. Multiple sources suggested that the Browns overdraft Dillon Gabriel specifically to keep Jimmy Haslam off their backs. The visual of the owner hovering over the draft table, making his preferences known, tells you everything you need to know about the dynamic in that building. But here's what I think everyone's missing in this whole debate. What if Shedeur Sanders is actually the right choice? I know, it sounds crazy, but hear me out. This kid has been playing under pressure his entire life. He's been in the spotlight since he was in high school. He's got that it factor that you can't teach, and most importantly, he's got the arm talent to make all the throws. Sure, his arm strength isn't elite, and Cowherd made a valid point about the weather conditions in the AFC North. Playing in Cleveland in December is no joke. But let's not forget, this is a kid who's been playing in big games his entire college career. He's used to hostile environments, he's used to criticism, and he's used to proving people wrong. And here's the kicker. Deion Sanders isn't going to sit quietly while his son gets buried. On the depth chart, as Cowherd mentioned, Deion's chiming in. We haven't even started. You think Coach Prime is going to let his son ride the bench while Joe Flacco throws interceptions in front of empty stadiums? Think again. The pressure is going to be immense. From all sides, you've got an owner who's desperate for a star, a fan base that's tired of mediocrity, and a Hall of Fame father who's not afraid to speak his mind. Meanwhile, you've got a coaching staff trying to build a winning culture and veterans who need to see that the best players are getting opportunities. This creates a perfect storm scenario. If the Browns start 0-3, which is entirely possible given their schedule, the calls for Shedeur are going to be deafening. Cowherd painted the picture perfectly. Flacco week 3, there's 0-3 throws 3 picks. There's not a fan in the world that's going to want to watch Joe Flacco take another snap after about September. But here's what makes this situation even more complicated. It's not just about football. It's about the business side of the game. The Browns need to sell tickets, they need to generate buzz, and they need to give their fans something to believe in. Shedeur Sanders, for better or worse, brings all of that to the table. Think about it from Jimmy Haslam's perspective. He's invested billions into this franchise. He's seen other teams find success with young, dynamic quarterbacks. He's watched teams like Miami transform their entire offense around exciting playmakers. Why wouldn't he want to roll the dice on the most marketable young quarterback available? And let's be honest about something else. The alternative options aren't exactly inspiring. Kenny Pickett had his chance in Pittsburgh and couldn't cement himself as the franchise guy. Joe Flacco is a bridge quarterback at best. Dillon Gabriel is a project who might not even make the roster. When you put it in that context, Shedeur Sanders starts looking like the obvious choice. The real question isn't whether Shedeur can play in the NFL. It's whether he can handle the unique pressures of being the Browns quarterback. This is a franchise that's been cursed at the position for decades. The spotlight is going to be intense, the criticism is going to be harsh, and the expectations are going to be through the roof. But here's what I love about this kid. He's been dealing with that pressure his entire life. He's been the coach's son, the star recruit, the face of the program. He's handled criticism, he's handled success, and he's handled failure. If anyone can handle the pressure of being the Browns quarterback, it might just be Shedeur Sanders. The timeline is perfect too. By week 8, if the Browns are struggling, the fan base is going to be demanding change. The media is going to be circling like vultures, and Jimmy Haslam is going to be looking for someone to blame. That's when the call gets made. That's when Shedeur Sanders gets his shot. And here's the beautiful part. If he succeeds, Jimmy Haslam looks like a genius. If he fails, well, it's just another Browns quarterback story. But the potential upside is enormous. We're talking about a young, charismatic quarterback with a famous father and unlimited potential. The marketing opportunities alone are worth the risk, but let's not ignore the elephant in the room. This move could absolutely backfire. If Shedeur isn't ready, if he struggles early, if the team quits on him, it could set the franchise back years. We've seen it happen before. Young quarterbacks thrown into impossible situations, destroyed by the pressure and expectations. The key is going to be how the organization handles it. If they're smart, they'll give him time to develop, surround him with talent, and protect him from the worst of the media circus. But if they throw him to the wolves like they did with so many others, this could be another disaster. Here's what I think is going to happen. The Browns are going to struggle early. The fans are going to get restless. The media is going to start asking questions. And Jimmy Haslam is going to make the call that everyone sees coming. Shedeur Sanders is going to get his shot and win. He does, it's going to be must-watch television. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just about football. This is about hope, desperation, and the eternal optimism of Cleveland Browns fans. They've been waiting for their franchise quarterback for decades. They've been burned over and over again. But they're still here, still believing, still hoping. That maybe, just maybe, this time will be different. So the question isn't whether Shedeur Sanders will start for the Browns. The question is whether he'll be the savior they've been waiting for, or just another name on the long list of quarterback failures. But one thing's for sure, it's going to be one hell of a ride. What do you think? Is Colin Cowherd right about Jimmy Haslam forcing Shedeur Sanders into the starting lineup? Can this kid actually succeed where so many others have failed? Or is this just another Browns quarterback disaster waiting to happen? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more NFL content that you won't find anywhere else. The Browns quarterback saga is just getting started, and trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next.